I think a commissioned position is very different than what we are discussing today.
Representative Omar, I mentioned the fact that it's not just limited to commission. It's also for anybody that is demoted. So you can be in a regular job, not part of a commission situation, but if you're failing to perform, you'll get demoted, and then you get a pay cut with it. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. So I know Representative O'Neill has that experience having owned a business, and so I think she was speaking to that.
That is a ridiculous question, and I
yes or no?
No.
I will take that as a yes.
I am not going to respond to that kind of personal attack, which is not a question.
Hey folks, welcome back. You ever notice how some politicians love throwing emotional questions around? Right up until someone hits back with cold, hard facts. Because that's exactly what happened when Ilhan Omar tried to take down two people who actually know how the world works. First, she tries to moralize to Elliot Abrams, a man who's forgotten more about foreign policy than she'll ever know. Then, she tries to lecture a room full of business owners on how to pay their employees, despite clearly never having run a lemonade stand, let alone a multi-million-dollar company. The arrogance is staggering. You've got a sitting congresswoman who's faced her own ethics investigations and anti-Semitism scandals, acted like she's the moral arbiter of the United States. It's a joke. She isn't in a position to question the integrity of a sandwich, let alone these experts. Let's dive into the first clip where she tries to play gotcha with Abrams and ends up looking like a middle schooler in debate club.
Thank you all for being here, and thank you for your testimonies. Mr. Adams, in 1991, you pleaded guilty to 2 counts of withholding information from Congress regarding your involvement in the Iran-Contra affair, for which you were later pardoned by President George H.W. Bush. I fail to understand why members of this committee or the American people should find any testimony that you give today to be truthful.
If I can respond to that.
It wasn't a question.
That
was not a question. That was I reserve the right to my time.
It is not right.
That was not a question.
Committee can attack
on February 8th,
who is not permitted to reply.
That was not a question. Thank you for your participation. On February 8th, 1982, you testified before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee about U.S. policy in El Salvador. In that hearing, you dismissed as communist propaganda report about the massacre of El Mozote, in which more than 800 civilians, including children as young as 2 years old, were brutally murdered by U.S.-trained troops. During that massacre, some of those troops bragged about raping a 12-year-old girl before they killed them. Girls before they killed them. You later said that the U.S. policy in El Salvador was a fabulous achievement. Yes or no, do you still think so?
From the day that President Duarte was elected in a free election to this day, El Salvador has been a democracy. That's a fabulous achievement.
Yes or no, do you think that massacre was a fabulous achievement that happened under our watch?
That is a ridiculous question, and I
yes or no?
No.
I will take that as a yes.
I am not going to respond to that kind of personal attack, which is not a question.
Yes or no, would you support an armed faction within Venezuela that engages in war crimes, crimes against humanity or genocide, if you believe they were serving U.S. interest, as you did in Guatemala, El Salvador, and Nicaragua?
I am not going to respond to that question. I'm sorry. I don't think this entire line of questioning is meant to be real questions, and so I will not reply.
Whether under your watch, a genocide will take place, and you will look the other way because American interests were being upheld, is a fair question, because the American people want to know that anytime we engage a country, that we think about what our actions could be and how we believe our values are being furthered. That is my question. Will you make sure that human rights are not violated and that we uphold international and human rights?
I suppose there is a question in there, and the answer is that the entire thrust of American policy in Venezuela is to support the Venezuelan people's effort to restore democracy to their country. That's our policy.
I don't think anybody disputes that. The question I had for you is that does the interest of the United States include protecting human rights and include protecting people against genocide?
That is always the position of the United States.
Well, did you see that? She digs up stuff from 35 years ago, cases that were settled and pardoned, to try and trash current policy on Venezuela. It's a total smear job. Elliot Abrams is a statesman. He's looking at her like, are you serious right now? And notice how she doesn't actually want an answer. She asks a question. He starts explaining the nuance of a complex civil war in the 80s, and she just cuts him off. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Then why are you there, Ilhan? If you just want to hear yourself talk, start a podcast. Don't waste taxpayer time in a hearing where we're trying to actually help the people of Venezuela. Abrams handled her with total class, calling out the ridiculous nature of her hypothetical questions. He knows she's not there for truth. She's there for a Twitter clip. But wait, it gets better. Or worse, depending on how much you value your brain cells. Check out this next clip. She decides to shift from foreign policy, where she crashed and burned, to labor law. She asks a business owner why anyone would ever decrease an employee's pay. I mean, is she for real? Let's watch the schooling happen in real time.
Thank you, Chair. Representative O'Neill, I'm just wondering, are there, I was a union member for a long time, and I've also gotten an opportunity to work in the private sector. And I'm curious to know if you know of any employer that has a provision where they decrease pay for employees. I find that a little strange, and so I just wanted to know where that thought comes from, and if you know where an employee gets their pay decreased.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I was a business owner. I recently sold my share, so I don't own it anymore, but there are plenty of businesses out there, especially those that depend on employees' productivity, like I was in the trades. So I owned a company that was a tile setting company, and if we didn't get out there and do the work, and if I didn't have highly productive employees, they were paid based on their productivity. So if they had issues, it is very possible that their pay would reflect those issues. If they were on probation for something, for some sort of violation, that could be coordinated with a pay reduction. It's something that businesses do all the time, and it could be the step before someone is actually fired. So it's an important thing, and it gets people's attention, when they see it in their paycheck that their performance does not meet the standard.
Representative Omar.
Hudson, I think, did you have something?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Hudson? Was there a question for Mr. Hudson?
No, I think he was saying that he wanted to add something, so I didn't know if he had something to add.
Mr. Hudson, is there a response to the question? Do you have a response to that question?
Madam Chair, yes, ma'am.
Saying that you aren't aware of any businesses that decrease pay? Because that was the question.
Madam Chair, I think what Chair O'Neill perhaps could be referring to, there are some instances where the pay structure is different. So for an example, she had indicated that she had come out of the towel industry. I'm not sure if these were commissioned employees who may have been on like an 80-20 split. In that instance, there is a situation where a pay might be reduced. Or if we have a supervisor who perhaps had a performance improvement issue or a behavioral concern, and we demoted this supervisor, that is an instance where pay might be decreased. But just an employee who has not been under some sort of performance improvement program having their pay reduced, I've never heard of that.
Well, Mr. Hudson, I think Representative Neal knows exactly what she says. And I think we've had a little conversation back here when the question was asked. I know Representative Uglem, do you want to speak to that point?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Omar, if you happen to be a salesman in this world, and you can be selling cars, you could be selling siding, you could be selling just about anything, and you are paid on commission. So if you don't sell anything, you don't make anything. So you can have good years, you can have bad years. Probably really one of the best examples is a real estate agent. So it's the idea that people can make less money year to year, not to mention all the bonus situations that are out there in industry. It happens. It happens a lot. It doesn't necessarily happen, here in the public sector, but it's pervasive and very, very common in the private sector. Thank you.
And I'd like to add that in the private sector as well, people, if they are not performing at their job, get demoted, and with that demotion comes a pay cut. And that's not even related to being in a commission position, that's just in a regular position as well. Representative Omar.
I think a commissioned position is very different than what we are discussing today.
Representative Omar, I mentioned the fact that it's not just limited to commission. It's also for anybody that is demoted. So you can be in a regular job, not part of a commission situation, but if you're failing to perform, you'll get demoted, and then you get a pay cut with it. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. So I know Representative O'Neill has that experience having owned a business, and so I think she was speaking to that.
So I just want to make sure that that's clear. So I know Representative O'Neill has that experience having owned a business, and so I think she was speaking to that. Guys, I'm literally embarrassed for her. Did you see the looks on those business owners' faces? They had to explain to a United States Congresswoman how commission works. They had to explain that if you don't sell anything, you don't make as much money. They had to explain that if you get demoted because you're bad at your job, your paycheck reflects that. This is basic economics 101, and she's sitting there with this smug look like she's just uncovered a massive conspiracy to rob people. No, Ilhan. It's called merit. It's called the private sector. It's how the real world functions outside the government heat. She tries to backtrack and say, oh, commission is different. No, it's not. The principle is the same. You're paid for value. If you provide less value, you get less money. The fact that she finds this strange tells you everything about her worldview. She wants everyone to get a trophy and a paycheck, no matter if they actually show up and do the work. Bottom line, Ilhan Omar is out of her league. Whether it's historical foreign policy, or the basic mechanics of a tile-setting business, she proves time and time again that she's more interested in being a squash celebrity than a serious legislator. Elliot Abrams and those business owners didn't just answer her questions. They exposed that she has no business asking them in the first place. But hey, that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Is she the most out-of-touch person in DC? Or is the competition just too stiff? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're tired of the nonsense. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.